What's up, everybody? Just wanted to let you know that this episode is sponsored by our friends at Sabio. And if you don't know what Sabio is, it's a tech school. They offer full-time and part-time classes and are 100% dedicated to helping smart and highly motivated people to learn to code and land an amazing job as a tech professional. Look, when you're done, you can create websites for your tío's business and charge him for it, or your local church and charge them too. Or you can land a job at any company because all companies hire software engineers these days, like your local bank, a social media platform, or a new app. The possibilities are endless. Learn to code and land an amazing job with great benefits. For more information, visit sabio.la. Sabio, code small, dream big. Now, back to the episode. Bienvenidos a otro capítulo de Echale Podcast. My name is Jose Quintero, and on today's episode, I wanted y'all to have somebody very special, somebody I've admired for such a long time since the pandemic. I've known about him and his games and his products, and I feel like he's going to be an amazing guest for anybody who wants to be like an entrepreneur. Y como él le ha echado ganas, día con día a la vida. So I'm excited to introduce you guys the founder and creative director of Millennial Loteria, who sold over 500,000 games in the United States, content creator, author of a new book, Los Street Vendors. Con ustedes, Mike Alfaro.
Eso, aquí a echarle ganas. That hyped me up.
All right.
Thank you for that.
I'm so excited to have you on the podcast because we've interviewed you for Cali 93.9.
Yes.
You were, I think it was like something, a partnership with McDonald's.
Yes.
So I thought that was pretty awesome. But no te quedaste ahí y tienes estas ganas de ser entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
I love this new concept that you're starting, Los Street Vendors. We're going to go ahead and talk about that.
Yeah.
But there's just so much. The beginning.
Yes.
¿De dónde viene esta mente entrepreneurial for you?
Bueno, yo crecí en Guatemala. So I was born in Guatemala. I came to the United States when I was just turned 18 years old. I'm 35 now. So like half of my life has been living in Guatemala, half of my life here in the United States. And my parents sacrificed so much to be able for me to come to the United States that like when I got here, I was like, I'm not wasting any opportunity. I'm gonna work as hard as I can because my parents are working really hard for me to like succeed.
Yeah.
And so that's where like this hustle mentality comes from. My mom was an entrepreneur as well. She had her own business in Guatemala. She was an interior decorator.
Wow.
And so she made cortinas, edredones, like all these different things for her clients. And so I grew up in a very creative environment of like you can create things with your hands and with your mind and your imagination. And so when I came to the United States, I think the only thing holding me back was like trying to get like mis papeles and like my green card. That was the only thing that was holding me back from like really, getting it. But once I got, all that stuff sorted out, I was like, I gotta hit the ground running, start my own business, and kind of just hustle to make it, make a name for yourself.
You grew up here in Southern California?
No, I grew up in Guatemala until I was 18.
Till you were 15.
18. Yeah, and so when I came here,
Ni tienes 20 años aquí en los Estados Unidos, but your
No.
English is so superb.
Thank you.
O sea, pinches gringos aquí, like, their English isn't as great as yours.
I think it was television. Television really like, I watched a lot of Friends growing up, a lot of reruns, a lot of stuff like that. And I just started mimicking, the way that they spoke on TV. I went to a school that had English and Spanish curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely learned English, but I definitely was better at languages than a lot of my friends growing up. So I think it was something that clicked.
How was that living, like now that you live in the United States in Southern California, how was that? What is the difference between Guatemala growing up and then now the United States? Because, I mean, yo soy de Pueblo. I'm from like a little small town in Michoacán. And the lifestyle is so much slower, so much calmer, but not sure how it is for Guatemala.
Well, I grew up in Guatemala City. So it was a very metropolitan city, one of the most sort of like beautiful cities. If you're looking at Central America, it's huge. And so I grew up in Guatemala City, so everything was, go. And so I think coming to LA, there's some similarities. Obviously, it's different. LA is so much bigger. Everything's so far apart. But to me, I came to the United States, and I thought that people had this notion of what it was like to be an immigrant or like growing up in Guatemala. I got a lot of questions because I came to OC first. I was in Orange County first. And so I got all these people being like, oh, you're from Guatemala. Did you have internet? Did you have cell phones?
Like
Did you live in like huts? And I was like, no, we do have them, And if you go to Guatemala, you go to any pueblo, they have people with 2 or 3 cell phones.
Dang.
Like technology has advanced so much that like there's all these pueblitos that maybe there weren't like phone lines that could go there, but now with cell phones, you don't need to build like infrastructure. You can have a cell phone. So I think technology has allowed a lot of pueblos, a lot of places to really advance technologically because of Wi-Fi and internet and all that kind of stuff. So I think people have a more outdated view of what it's like to live in Latin America or growing up there here in the United States than what it really is in reality. As our countries, they're developing, they're advancing. We're not always going to be left behind. We're hustlers. We're getting out there,
I love that. And I feel so inspired just hearing your story, just living in Guatemala until the age of 18. Was there a special memory that like just comes to mind from being a kid?
Oh my God, so many memories. But a lot of it was with my family. I mean, I think when I think back to Guatemala, it's really just my family. Either it was playing Loteria growing up, which was a big part of like why I created this new game, or just having my mom, who doesn't speak English. My mom and her parents, they don't speak English. Try to teach me English when they didn't know themselves. They bought like little flashcards, and they were like trying to help me because they always told me that learning a second language would open up the world to you. They thought
funny.
That was so important for me. They always had this like mentality of like they can take away everything from you, but they can't take your education. So education was like a number one priority for them, and like always instilling me like you got to learn. The more you learn, the more like you're going to be open to opportunities, and the more you're going to be prepared when the opportunities come to you.
That's so funny because right now that you're talking about it, like my mom literally said the exact same thing. Te pueden quitar todo en la vida, pero lo único que no te pueden quitar es lo que tienes aquí adentro.
Yeah.
And literally word for word.
Yeah.
And obviously I grew up here in Southern California. You grew up in Guatemala, but the fact that it was so synonymous in terms of how they were raising kids, it's sort of like, oh, okay, like that is how, most of us as Latinos grew up. Are you the oldest in your family?
Youngest by a lot.
Really?
Yeah, my brother is like 19 years older than me, and my sister's like 14.
Y después tú eres el tercero,
Yo soy el tercero. Yeah, when they were leaving home, my mom was like, I don't want to be an empty nester. I want another kid. And she was almost 40 at the time.
Oh, my God.
But the doctor was like, you can still have another child. So there I came, and so they decided to start over again. But so I kind of grew up a little bit like an only child because my brother and sister, they were already kind of going out of the house. And
I love to talk about that dynamic. How was that growing up? You literally had, by the time you were probably conscious, your siblings were already creating families of their own, if not becoming like basically your parents.
I was an uncle when I was 3 years old.
Oh, wow.
Like at that point. So I grew up with nieces already. I was like, I deal, but we almost were kind of more like cousins. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Did your brothers ever tell you something and like you were get into arguments with them?
Oh yeah, they were. My brother like always teased me so much.
Like a dad.
He would try to scare me. He'd be like, he'd go out in the yard and he'd tell me like, hey, give me like a flashlight. And he's like, oh yeah, go look at the yard. But I wouldn't know that he would go and he would hide himself. He'd put like a tube sock over his head or something, and I'd be like looking, and then he like scare me. So yeah.
Okay, so there was still that brother role.
Yeah, there was still that when they would come over. But again, I was just I think growing up I was a very shy kid. I kind of grew up out of that when I was being little, but I learned a lot to play by myself and my imagination, and like that's where I think a lot of my creativity came from. Like I didn't have my brother and sister there to play with all the time, so like I just either watch TV or like play by myself or imagination, or until I got older, until I was 13, and I was like, okay, now I can just like play in the street with my friends,
So at 18 you come to the United States. 18,
yeah.
I'm sure you finished high school in Guatemala.
Sí.
So did you start college in the United States?
Yeah.
Was that an easy transition? Tuition?
No.
How was that? Because we're around the same age. I'm 32. You're 35. So tuition was probably around the same cost.
It was not hard. And especially because my parents are paying, they're like making quetzales, that's the currency in Guatemala. And that's like 8 quetzales is like $1, So for them, it was really extremely hard. They had to mortgage like their house twice.
In Guatemala or here?
In Guatemala, yeah.
To pay for your education.
To pay for my education. So I knew how hard they were struggling. They were like, and again, my parents were older at the time too, because they had me older. So it was a lot of hard work. And now that, I'm set up, it's really fun for me to, not fun, but like also like important for me to give back to my parents. So I send money to my parents like every month to make sure that they're set up, because they did that for me. And, it was one of those hard things when when they finished paying for my college, I was like, I need to make money so I could like pay them back. I need to work really hard. But again, that's why I appreciate every opportunity, because I knew how hard they were working. And from some people came to the school with like a full ride, with tuition, like just, and I could see them just like not understanding how valuable what they had was, and they would just not go to class, or they would like not do well. And I was like there every class, learning as much as I could, joining clubs, all these things.
Okay, so one thing that I didn't know, you came by yourself then.
Yeah.
Your parents stayed in Guatemala.
Yeah.
I definitely want to ask where you came from, but to touch on that point, I think you're completely right. I was born here in the United States.
Yeah.
And right now that you were saying it, there's definitely, we are not the same in the sense that like, I feel like the immigrant story and the immigrants who come here and the first generation immigrants, they struggle obviously to go to college, and they're already ostracized. They already put a label, so they work 2-3 times as hard as somebody who was born here in the United States. Because yes, I would skip class, yes, I had scholarships, yes, I got student loans, yes, I didn't understand the value of a dollar, and has led me to obviously student loans, where you're just like, a lot of my friends who migrated from Mexico, from other countries, they were like, no, we didn't get any of that. So we had to work a part-time job. We knew what it was like to get up early, to study, then go to work, then to come back. I had the privilege of working at the university.
Yeah.
So hearing you say all that, like your parents, it's literally like, you're right. Most of my friends who were born here, we had fun in college, but look at us now. We have student loans.
No, but I mean, I was a little bit jealous of a lot of Latinos that grew up here in the United States. And also when it was time for me to get a job, like I was on a work visa. So once I graduated college, I was able to start working and get a work visa from a company that sponsors you. But when you're in a work visa, if you, do something, you mess up at work and they fire you, you're deported. Like that, you have a little time frame to like, you can find another job, but it's really hard to do that because the companies have to pay for you. They have to do like, all this paperwork with the government. It takes time, it takes money. And so I was just like, man, like if you get fired, you can just go find another job, or you can go on unemployment, or you can do all these things. But if I got fired, it was like, I like lose everything that I've been working so hard for. So for me, it was like, just, this fire for me to like fuel everything that I wanted to do. And I think a lot of times people see the success that I've had. A lot of it comes from like, it's not just like resting and doing what you're doing. I just really had to hustle for what I got now.
18 years old, you come to Orange County. Why did you decide to go to the States for college and not Guatemala? Was this something your parents pushed you to do?
No. My parents didn't really want me to go. They were like, quédate con nosotros, ¿verdad? They didn't really want me to go. They were like, estás chiquito, you're going to go into like, America. There was also, they were worried about racism. They were worried about all these things of me coming here by myself. But I wanted to study advertising. That's what I really liked. I love creating and marketing, and I thought it was a very a fun, creative way of expressing myself artistically, but also like make money, because there's a lot of money in advertising. There's a lot of money in marketing.
Te pusiste dos.
It's a good like balance here. Pero para mí fue como que, I wanted to come to Orange County because there's a school called Chapman University in Orange County.
Oh, yes.
That has the advertising program within the film school. So I was like, I can also learn about film. I could also learn about TV production, about hosting. And so I did a lot of that work as well there. And my parents were like, if this is a school you like and you want to go there, like it's a private school. And so they're like, we're gonna like work hard. But at that point too, they were like, you know what, if you don't make it, if you don't like it, you can always come back, you know? And so I always had the door open in my home in Guatemala. And I think if I went back to Guatemala, I also could have had a good life. I would have done a good job. But I just, I didn't want to let anyone down. And I had a lot of hate from my friends too when I left Guatemala.
Yeah.
They were like being like, oh, ¿para qué te vas a los Estados Unidos? You're going to end up selling, tacos on the street or whatever. And I was like, no. And then it's funny because my first job out of college was like, I worked for the marketing department of Taco Bell. And so I kind of did end up selling tacos, but it was a different like type of vibe, And now I sell loterias and books, so it kind of is like they were kind of right, but at the same time I was like, I did it a different way. I did it a better way, I think.
Was that your first time in the United States at 18, or had you come in the past?
I had come in the past. I had told my parents I really wanted to go to Disney World, and so when I was 9 years old, they were able to take me. But again, my parents didn't speak English at that time, so when I came to Disney World, I was the translator. I was 9 years old, so I was always translating for them, and that's one of the reasons why I always learned the importance of like a second language, because by that time I was 9 or 11. My parents had already put me in a school that had English and Spanish, so I remember being like at a restaurant, and the waiter comes over, and like I'm the one who's like, oh, mi mama, she wants potatoes instead of rice, and she wants this, and the guy's like, okay, cool, and so I'm there in the restaurant in like some hotel near Disney World, and the waiter comes back and he's like, hey, I have another family that's having trouble ordering. Would you mind coming and like translating for me?
At 9 years old?
At 9 years old, I was like, okay. And so my parents like watch me. I go over to the other table and I'm there like, no, que quiere salsa con esto. She doesn't want this. She wants it well done. So I'm like translating, right? And I come back to my seat and it's like, oh, he was great, And at the end of the dinner, there was an arcade that was attached to the restaurant or whatever. The waiter comes back with like the biggest bag I've ever seen of like quarters and tokens to play, and he's like, here, thank you for helping me out.
Aww.
And I was like, I can make money from translation, like there's something here. And so I realized there was a value in what I had. And I remember going to the arcade. My parents literally just sat there all night until they closed. I beat the Simpsons game. Like, you remember the big Simpsons game that you had to play like in the arcade? I beat the whole game. I'd be like, just like putting
just
more quarters. I mean, it was like, I was little again, so maybe it wasn't as big as I thought, but like it looked like the biggest amount of like quarters I've ever gotten. So it was really, that's when I realized, okay, there's this power in being bilingual and helping people connect and communication. And that's the reason why my books, I think, are something that I really wanted to do.
Yeah, no. And you definitely described like the first generation Latino story here, because most of us, when we had to translate from our parents, more than likely, if we were in line for something else, we probably had to translate for the person in front of us or behind us.
Exactly.
You go to this advertising agency or you start doing advertising.
Yeah.
And I find it very powerful. You shared a video not too long ago, which is what motivated me to reach out, because it was so vulnerable.
Yeah.
Where you shared your story, and I would love for you to share your story in this advertisement and agency it's a story your parents didn't even know.
Yeah.
But that kind of, I think there was Mike before and after that.
Yes, definitely. I think definitely. So when I was in working at an advertising agency, there was this prank that they played on me where they were saying that I had plagiarized a commercial, my first commercial that I had written, and it was a joke from like other people. It was kind of like hazing, basically like where other like copywriters were hazing me, and they came to me at the holiday party and they got someone to tell me that I had plagiarized and that I was gonna have to go into HR on Monday morning to talk. And again, I'm on a work visa, meaning like if they like find you plagiarizing something, they'll fire you. And I was like, I'm getting deported. I everything I've worked for so hard is gonna come crashing down for something that I knew wasn't real, because I knew I didn't plagiarize. I knew that was an original idea. That's a great commercial. Like, I'm so proud of it. And so I just got really upset at them, and I was like, you're not gonna tell me that that I'm plagiarizing something. You're not gonna come for my honesty in a way. So I got so upset that I quit. I was like, I quit this job or whatever, and everybody freaked out because they were like, oh, this joke went bad. This joke just took a turn, So I was so upset, crying. And, I told them, and they kept to me like, it's a joke. And that's when I lost it. And I was like, how dare you joke about this? So it was just like a very hard time in my life to see how other people can play with your emotions in that way and just want to see you suffer for fun. They just want to see you like squirm. And I like a good joke. I like a good prank. But you don't joke about deportation. You don't joke about someone's livelihood, about their honesty. That's something that I think crossed the line. And after that, I was just I think I became a little bit more hard in what I wanted to do, but also fueled me to be like, hey, I'm going to show you guys, like, I can make this without being mean to other people. And so I've just tried to be nice now to people, even people coming up, and not try to haze them and do like mean things, because that's just like, I don't know. I was 21, 22 at that time, and the people playing the joke on me were like in their 40s and their 30s, and I think of myself now, I would never do that to a kid coming up in the business. You're supposed to like lift people up. And so
were they white?
Of course they were white, yeah.
Of
course, yeah.
Because I find that a lot in not in Latino culture. Latino culture, yes, we have the llevadera, but it pushes boundaries, but it doesn't go towards, like, it won't push the boundary of a reality where you're just like, okay, I'm feeling uncomfortable because this can literally cost my life and my work here.
And in a workplace environment, like, listen, that could lead to lawsuits.
Yes.
That's a hostile work environment.
Did any of them say, like, hey, you're overreacting because you're Latino?
Yes. I mean, I think they were like, they definitely thought I was overreacting. It was just a joke. But I don't think they understood, too, that, like, how, I mean, I think some of them didn't even think, like, oh, we thought if you got fired, then it's just fired. They didn't think, oh, if you got fired, you're going to get deported as well. You know, so there was some.
Did they know your background?
Oh, yes. I had talked to them, and I told them, because, too, when they told me this joke, it wasn't like they told me this joke, I got mad, and then, like, they told me it was a joke. They kept it going for, like, an hour or two. I was, like, sitting down at the table being like, I'm going to get fired. I was telling them about it.
Like, you're just hearing voices, and in my head, I'm like, I'm fired. I'm going to get deported, everything.
And I'm telling my story
You're having a mental breakdown.
I'm telling it to their face, and instead of saying, like, hey, it was a joke, they were like, dude, that's, like, messed up that you did that. And I was like, I didn't do it. It's like, nah, dude, like, that's messed up. You're putting the agency in a bad light. It was so bad.
Oh, my God.
It was so bad. So that's when they told me finally, like, it was a joke. That's when I reacted, like, how dare you? Like, because that was just so mean. Like, you know, like, even at that point when they saw me crying, they should have stopped it, but they kept it going. And so that's when I realized there's people out there that just you know,
they
get a kick out of pushing you down and seeing people down, and seeing Latinos held down makes them feel better about themselves in some way. And I just think, like, pushing someone down is never going to make you feel better about yourself, you know?
Did you actually quit?
Well,
and how long after did you leave?
Oh, again, I left probably like 2 or 3 years after. So I stayed there for a while because this is when I first started.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, everybody was afraid of me after that.
Good.
They knew not to mess with me. They knew not to play jokes like that on me.
Did that cause like some hostility like around people, or like, oh, I don't want to talk to him in a certain way, no se vaya a enojar or no se vaya a explotar, and you're just sort of like some animosity?
I felt a little bit that way, but again, I think that's where I try to be professional, and I just push those things aside and say, listen, I'm here to work, and if I try to do anything, if I let them derail my career, then they would have won.
Yeah.
And that's not what I wanted to do. So I was just professional, friendly, you know, coming in with a smile. And that helped too, because people saw that, oh man, like this guy's actually like really nice and really friendly and really helpful. He's not like mean to us. And that made the joke seem even worse in hindsight, because they're like, this is a really, you know, this is a good guy, and he's here to help, and he's here, you know. I would go in at, you know, like 7 a.m. and I would leave at like 2 or 3 a.m.
Oh my God.
That was like, it was the longest hours. I would work harder than anyone because I wanted to like grow in the agency, you know. And I started out as an intern, you know, and then I left, you know, as a copywriter, and I went to lead another agency, to lead the Hispanic department within 3 years. By the time I was 29, I was a creative director at an agency.
At that same agency?
No, at a different agency. Okay. A different agency. That agency folded. That agency's like, no more. The previous one, they like did not work out after I left. But I was able to go somewhere else and, you know, do what I wanted to do. Yeah.
Do you still keep in touch with some of those, I don't want to say perpetrators, but those people who, like, I don't know, kicked you down when you didn't need to?
No, not really.
No.
No, I'm like, están en el pasado, and that's where I leave it. You know, I was like, I don't really need that kind of negativity. I think, you can forgive, but you don't forget. And that's where I'm like, I forgave,
but I'm not forgotten.
I haven't forgotten, and I won't forget.
Exactly. No, they're good. And it makes for a good anecdote for the people who are probably bosses and who are seeing this or hearing this. Agarren la onda. It's 2024. And first of all, you don't need to be that. I've always had that philosophy, like, be nice, because you never know who's going to be your boss. 2, there is no need to spread hate in the world, because karma is a bitch and it'll come back to you.
Yeah.
So my next follow-up with that, 24, you leave the company, 29, you become a creative director. Where in there lies this sense of entrepreneurship? I'm sure it never has died, because you said your mom was an entrepreneur, that you said, hey, a loteria for millennials.
Well, it was actually my, you know, I
What's up, everybody? Just wanted to let you know that this episode is sponsored by our friends at Sabio. And if you don't know what Sabio is, it's a tech school. They offer full-time and part-time classes and are 100% dedicated to helping smart and highly motivated people to learn to code and land an amazing job as a tech professional. Look, when you're done, you can create websites for your tío's business and charge him for it, or your local church and charge them too. Or you can land a job at any company because all companies hire software engineers these days, like your local bank, a social media platform, or a new app. The possibilities are endless. Learn to code and land an amazing job with great benefits. For more information, visit sabio.la. Sabio, code small, dream big. Now, back to the episode.
All those experiences that I had of people thinking that Latinos were very outdated, they weren't very technologically savvy, that they weren't, those things I still felt going into advertising, like I think people had this idea of Latinos very outdated, and I always wanted to do cool stuff for Latino, ads.
Yeah.
And so when I was, there was a moment where I kind of quit my job when I got my green card, and I was like, okay, now I can just quit my job and have some time for myself,
Yeah.
So I quit my job at that time, was a creative director, and I went back home to Guatemala and I found my old Loteria set.
Yeah.
And when I found my old Loteria set, I was like, man, some of these things are very outdated, like the card of La Dama.
Sí.
At that time, it was 2017, so the Me Too movement was happening. So right on the TV, there was this march, all these women marching on TV, and I have La Dama in my hand, right? And I'm seeing all these women march, and I was like, well, if this was today, this card would be La Feminist.
Yeah.
And I was like, it'd be really fun if I made this card into La Feminist, and I posted it as support for the Me Too movement, and all my friends were posting about it. I was like, I think they would like sort of this idea. So I just went into Photoshop, I did some, adjustments, and I made La Feminist, the first card, posted it online, and all my girlfriends and friends were like, oh my God, this is so good, and I was like, oh, there's support. And I was like, well, it'd be funny, maybe I could do another one. And I saw El Catrín, and I was like, El Catrín kind of looks like a hipster now, El hipster. So I told him, okay, this is El hipster. I posted it, and I just started to make this artwork to represent the modern Latino experience and also an immigrant experience. So I made La Sirena became La Selfie.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of taking a
Yes.
selfie. And I just started posting these cards on Instagram, every couple of days, and every week I would post one or two and see if I could do the full deck. And people were really into it, and they were started following me, being like, what card are you going to do next? What's El Camarón going to be, which became El Sushi. So it's all these different things that happen. And it wasn't a business. It was just like a meme that I started. And then everybody was like, I want to buy this game. How can I buy it? And it was just thousands of people.
Yeah.
And
I was probably one of them.
Yeah. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I should figure out how to make a game. And that's when I started to work on making the game. And at the same time that I was trying to figure out how do you manufacture a game, this agency that I had quit called me back and being like, hey, we want you to come back to work for us. And I was
to work for them, nothing to do with the Millennial Loteria.
Nothing to do with it, just hey, we need you to come back to work. We think you did so good when you were working here. We need you back. And I was like, well, the only way I'm coming back is if you pay me double what I was paying. And they were like, okay. And I was like, Oh, okay. And so it ended up being that, okay, now I could take, and at that point I had invested, I had all my savings that I had saved up for taking time was about $19,000 that I had saved up for those 10 years that I had worked. And that was my cushion to be able to quit my job and still have stuff to pay. I had invested all that into creating the first 1,000 sets of Loteria, so I really didn't have any money left.
Where do you go? Okay, first of all, before that, is there any copyright for Loteria that you wanted to?
So at first it was just an art project, so I think you have a little bit more leeway with art because it's just that's the way. But once I started to manufacture the product, yes, there is a trademark on the word Loteria, and so I have to work with the Loteria Don Clemente on a licensing deal. So we have a licensing deal. So if you ever support Millennial Loteria, you're also supporting the Loteria that you grew up playing, the Don Clemente one, the one that you the original one,
traditional,
the traditional one. So you're always supporting that as well. Because people are being like, oh, if I buy this, I'm not supporting the original. No, You actually are. We do have a licensing deal so that I can use the images and all that stuff, and I can sell it, and I can be at Target and Walmart, and it's all legal.
Yeah. How do you even contact like him? Because you're like, I have this crazy idea. How does one start? Because there's so many people and Latinos who have this, and I include myself, that we have this ambition to succeed so we can help our parents, so they can move back to their country, so we can continuously give them money because they gave us so much. How do we even say, let me license, let me
get yourself? I think I had to get a good lawyer. That's the other thing. And thankfully, I had a friend of mine who was a lawyer to a couple of my friends, and I was like, dude, you need to help me out with this. And obviously, he was like, Sergio, shout out to Sergio. He has been incredible in like helping me out with navigate everything. But yeah, there's a lot of, I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, you have to surround yourself with people that know more than you do.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of stuff that I don't know about. Like, listen, creativity. There's certain things that I know, but there's a lot of different things as a business owner that I had to get help from, whether it's just starting your own business. And Google's your friend too, Google is your friend. There's a lot of things that you can find out online. But I think surround yourself with people that know. Always have a good legal team. I think for anyone who has like a business, always have a good lawyer handy just in case anything comes up that you need to like figure out, and they'll give you good advice.
You were 30 when you started manufacturing, or?
I was about, I just turned 30,
So you get this licensing deal. You obviously get in contact with, I forget his name, the main one from Loteria.
Don Clemente.
Don Clemente.
Well, that's the name of the company. There's not actually named Don Clemente, because Don Clemente is actually the name of the company, but it was started before by a guy named Jacques Clement.
Bueno.
Yeah.
Pues el Don Clemente nomás
Don Clemente. Yeah. That's the name of
to Latinify him.
Yeah.
So you get Don Clemente, you start manufacturing, you invest $19,000 in a deck of 1,000 cards that you do them very well thought of. And
not a deck, 1,000 boxes.
1,000 boxes.
Yeah.
So the deck wasn't even created
yet?
No,
No, the deck was in there. But
it was just 1,000.
Sets.
A ver si funcionaba, because when I see the Loteria, the Don Clemente one, they're like, okay, these are good quality cards.
Yeah.
When I see yours, I'm like, oh my God, the packaging,
the
creativity, the color, the texture, like it's something tangible.
Yeah.
It is high quality.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to make it a millennial version.
The Bitcoin.
And the Bitcoins. And so for me, I was like, I wanted to feel like you're unboxing an iPhone. That's what I wanted to feel of like a Loteria, because I think a lot of the times when it's products for our culture, people think of it as like it can't be upscale. And I think it can be, it can be something that feels, and again, it's a product that's still, comparable to other games that you buy in the United States. In terms of price, we're like at $14.99 or like $19.99 for some things. But sometimes the loterias that you can buy in like the flea markets, like $2-3, But this, I wanted it to be so it could be on a shelf in Target, It could be on a shelf in Walmart. I wanted to make it so that it felt like there was love and care and money put into a product, because that's what I think for us, a lot of young millennials, we like that kind of stuff. We like quality. We like things that we can display on our, people would get the game just to put it on their coffee table.
Oh, yep.
Because the box was so beautiful and it has a good message. They just
wanted
to put it on their coffee table. And I think that was a big part of it. We wanted to be something nice and aesthetic for people.
When I was living in LA, now I live in Fontana, it was definitely that. I wanted people, when they came into my apartment, to know that I am proud to be Latino.
Exactly.
And they saw Millennial Loteria. It's like, oh my God, yes, go ahead, look through it. It's funny as well. And it's culturally like represents me. Remember that specific Millennial Loteria, I was one of those persons that when I wanted to purchase it, it was sold out. So I always had to wait. And then it gave me such joy to see it at Target. And I was like, mira donde ha llegado Millennial Loteria. How was that feeling for you?
It was really great because I've told the story before. When I came to the United States, again, I came with 2 backpacks, and I was moving into college, so like I needed everything. I needed like sheets. I needed like, because I'm not gonna bring pillows on a plane, And so I went to Target as one of my first trips to get everything, and it was a completely different world than what I would think like a supermercado in Guatemala was, And so everything I felt really foreign and really like I didn't belong for some reason. And now to have a product at Target, it makes me think back of that first time that I went and I was so scared to walk into a Target. And now I'm like, damn, I got my like own game here. Hopefully, if there's another Latino out there who's coming to America and going to Target and they see Millennial Loteria there, maybe they'll feel like, okay, maybe it is. Maybe I don't feel so foreign at all. This is something that I recognize, something that's part of like my culture. So it was a good full circle moment to be there. I mean, now we're at Walmart. We have some exclusive products coming to Walmart end of this year, so I'm just excited.
Yeah. I mean, I have Millennial Loteria. I have Millennial Loteria McDonald's version that you gave me. I have the Millennial Loteria, the DC partnership that you guys did a while back ago. And they're unboxed, of course, because I've used them, but at the same time it's like, oh my god, I feel like it's the collectibles items.
It is,
right? So I don't know how many you have, but I'm like, Pokemon, gotta catch them all at some point. But I'm so happy of all the success that's been going around Millennial Loteria. Like,
Thank you.
Truly I am. And now you have a new child, aside from your daughter. Right. So like,
aside from my daughter,
we're gonna talk about like fatherhood in a bit, but los street vendors, I'm pretty sure it has a lot to do with our fellow street vendors and what you want to do with them and what you want to highlight, and how you want to bring them into our society more than anything.
So I decided that I wanted to start a children's book like publishing sort of arm, basically, which is called Si Sabo Kids. And so, obviously no Sabo Kids. And so I wanted to do something that was Si Sabo Kids to promote early education about, and also the idea that you don't have to be perfect. I think there's this idea that you have to be perfect when you're starting out. And I was like, no, like Si Sabo Kids is to like make it seem more fun and interesting. And so the first title that I ended up doing was a book about street vendors. So it's 3 books in one collection: El Paletero, El Carrito de Frutas, y El Puesto de Flores.
Wow.
And each of each of the street vendors teaches kids about something. So El Paletero teaches you about shapes, with the different shapes of the paletas, como que una paleta de estrella, una paleta cuadrada, una paleta de luna, ¿verdad? So it's teaching shapes in English and Spanish to kids. El Puesto de Flores teaches kids about different colors, for the colors of the flowers. And then el paletero, el frutero, he teaches kids like the words for like how to yell piña, sandía, to help also start early education learning of these different simple words. And so I wanted it so that I could teach my daughter to speak English and Spanish, because my wife speaks English, I speak Spanish and English, So in our household, I mostly speak in English, but I wanted these books to like remind me, I got to speak in Spanish with my daughter. I want her to start speaking like Spanish as well. So it was also a good reminder for me. And there's a lot of Latinos in the same boat where they're like more English dominant, but now that they have kids, they want their kids to learn in Spanish. So I wanted to make books that helped that, but also were culturally relevant. And then also, paleteros and all these different street vendors in LA, you see so many stories about them getting harassed. You see them stories about getting like killed or shot, or sometimes even just made fun of by people. And I wanted to make something that elevated them in a way from early on, that our kids learn to respect these people that are a lot of times immigrants, a lot of the times doing honest, hard-working jobs that are helping the Latino community as well. And
they make bang. Let me tell you, La Frutera that we have right outside our building, she told me how much she makes, and I was like, damn, I'm in the wrong business.
I just walked by her. I literally took a video. I was going in, and I was like, oh my God, I have Frutera. And she had the little Cali 93.9 like sticker on the thing, and I was like, cool.
We were like #1 clients, and she treats us well. Shout out to Angelica. That's her name.
Nice.
So like, I love this. And
I'm going to give, if you don't want this book, I'm going to go over to Angelica and I'll give her to the book for free. Be like, here you go.
No, pero I love that you as a father now want to remind yourself, I want to teach my kids growing up Spanish. We are an English dominant household. I include myself with my like nephews. Like I talk to them in English, but I have to remind myself like, okay, también tengo que decirles cositas en español para que lo practiquen.
Exacto.
Because if it weren't for me working in Spanish radio, my Spanish would also be almost obsolete. Es práctica, falta de práctica. Muchos de mis amigos, if they don't practice their Spanish, they're going to forget how to say words. And that is why I love books like Los Street Vendors that you're creating for like younger generations. That's why I like card games like Yo Sabo, which we're going to play in a bit. But these are, like you said, Si Sabo Kids, Yo Sabo the game. You are appropriating that word, that's the no sabo, and redefining what it means to people. So I love that. Your dad also loves your new success. Because I also see that in social media where you're just like, ay, mi papá, me están tomando fotos, and your dad will, like, tell me about that.
Yeah, no, my parents, again, they're very proud. They see all the hard work they did paying off. So I think they're like very like happy and proud of everything. And, their new grandparents are just always going to love on their like grandkids, and sus nietos. And so I don't know, they're just very proud. And everything that I do is like brand new to them because they didn't get those experiences too growing up, So like every time they come to the United States, I try to I took my mom to her first like premiere for the movie Wish from Disney, because I did a collaboration with Wish as well. Disney's been a great partner with me, so I love that. And I was like, can I bring my mom to the premiere? And they were like, yeah. And so like she was our first premiere, and she was just like, I never thought, in a million years, again, because she grew up in a very small town called Quiche, in like spelled like quiche, but not pronounced like quiche, Quiche in Guatemala, and like up in the mountains. That's where she grew up. And so she was like, I never imagined that I would be walking like a red carpet ever. And I think those are the type of experiences that I really truly treasure to give back to my family.
How do your brothers feel about this? Your brother and your sister, your older siblings, like, whoa.
My sister started to learn English recently. She got into classes because she saw like the success that I could have, and now she works at a job where she uses English and Spanish, and she's very happy. So I think for them it was a little bit of an inspiration, because I was younger, and so my brothers and sisters, they did have the opportunity to learn English, but they didn't want to. They're like thinking, like, no quiero, no, whatever, they're a little bit more different than me, where I was more like, I'll learn this, and so they were even inspired by me to like, you know what, maybe I should learn a second language. It'll open the doors for me. And now her job that she does has to deal with, she works for like, or she I don't know where she works at right now, because she switched jobs, but she used to work for like UPS, like doing English and Spanish stuff.
You're leaving a legacy for future generations of Latinos, not only with Millennial Loteria, with Sisabo Kids, and I'm sure you're going to create other product lines based on Latinos, which I am so excited. And I'm like, we need to collaborate or something, porque no me quiero quedar atrás. But specifically for your daughter, what would you like for her to say in the future?
Oh, man. I think I do feel a little bit of pressure sometimes on me being like, I need to teach you Spanish, because like I never know. Maybe she does grow up and she doesn't want to learn Spanish, or she learns a little bit, or she learns how to understand it but not talk, And I think what I want her to know is that nobody can define your Latinidad in any way. I think that's what I want her to know. Like, no one, you're not gonna be less of a Latina. And she's being güerita, she has blue eyes, so I could tell people are gonna be like, having that thing,
or
Latina, or you're not as much. And so I just want to let her know that it's all about being proud about your culture, proud about where you come from. That's what I want her to be. I want her to grow up being proud of herself and her heritage, but just know that she can, forge ahead and create whatever identity she wants. I think Millennial Loteria connects with a lot of people because some people feel like they're not Latino enough. Some people feel like they're like not American enough. And Millennial Loteria makes it so that it's fine. You can, this is you, this is a product that's made for you, and that's why people connect to it, because it's like, it's in Spanglish, but it's still Latino, and it's modern, but it still feels old school. And so I think that's what I want to leave, that legacy. I just wanted to be proud of where she comes from and not let anybody ever, kind of put her down for that. I wanted to be proud. That's
one of
what
the things that I was discussing with one of my closest friends, shout out to Stephanie, because we were talking about like kids and how we grew up with immigrant parents, and you being from Guatemala, migrating, an immigrant parent. How do you instill grit? Or how would you want to, like, because we don't have kids, so we're trying to be like, how do I instill these ganas, this echale ganas to my kids when my parents didn't have it. Also, I wanted to become that. Now my kids are going to be growing up a little bit more privileged. How do I make sure like there's a good balance? And you're already as a father, so I would love your take on that.
Well, I make her sleep outside. No, I'm kidding. No, listen, man, invite me to your talk show in 10 years, and I'll let you know what I'm doing, because I think as new parents, she's just, right now she's 16 months old.
Oh, no, está
chiquita. Like, there's nothing I would do to instill grit in her. Right now, I'm like, no, ahorita, diviértete tú, juega tu vida. And again, listen, my parents, they gave me a really good life in Guatemala. They gave me, like, opportunities. So I think what I learned from them was that they always told me their struggles. And so I think for me, I was like, I'll tell her, like, my struggles that I went through, so she understands that you are privileged, and you got to take all these opportunities that you're given, I want to have more opportunities than I got, and it's just about seizing the moment and being ready for when those opportunities come and being prepared for when they come.
And I think you touched on something very important. You're telling her your struggles, your journey, your story. My parents, our parents told us our struggles, their journey, their stories.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's like a cycle that keeps repeating itself through storytelling.
Exactly.
You know, our indigenous ancestors did the exact same thing. That's how legacies and traditions were passed on. So if we continue to say like, hey, our grandparents, tus abuelos, tus bisabuelos, they started like this. Look how far we've gone. Like that is how you instill, in my personal opinion, like this echale ganas moment.
And I think too, for even like the books like Los Paleteros, they are about hardworking people. And so I think writing these books and showing her that way is like, you got to see that people are working hard for these kind of things, you know, and then, they may be making bank. That's why they're doing it. But there's no shame in that as well. I'd rather Los Paleteros be making bank, you know, like I'd rather they be doing that than not, because it is honest work. And in a world where there's so much fraud and criminal activities and all these different things, you know, honest work is still something that needs to be respected and you know, celebrated.
Yeah. All right. So without further ado, because I love this conversation, a ver qué tal Guatemala contra Mexico. I'm just kidding. But Yo Sabo, obviously you know the founders, like you actually know them. I don't.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for providing these cards.
They're good people.
I know. They were good people. They gave me these cards so I could play with my guests. We're going to just do 2 rounds of it. I'm going to pull out a card. You're going to pull out a card. We know how this game works.
Yes.
Yo Sabo. I'm going to pull out the first one. ¿Cómo se dice burst?
Burst? Reventar?
No.
Se reventó, se burst, like something burst, explotó.
Explotar.
Explotó, sí, explotar.
Explotar.
Explotar,
All right,
explotar, okay.
Cool. All right, your turn.
Okay.
Pull a card, a ver qué tal.
A ver. How do No Sabo kids translate the word embarrassed?
Embarazado?
Embarazado, pregnant.
I'm over here like, les da pena.
No, estoy embarazado. Yeah.
That's true. A ver, one more. ¿Cómo se dice century?
Siglo.
Correct.
Eso. ¿Estamos en what century are we in?
En el siglo XXI.
21, sí,
okay.
siglo 21.
Sí, yo dije, 21st century. A ver, your turn.
Okay.
Last one.
Let's see. What is usually found in tin cookie boxes?
Salsa.
No.
Tin cookie boxes.
Yeah, like que tienen las abuelitas.
Harina. No. Just and needles.
Yeah, sewing stuff. Yeah.
Sewing stuff. Yeah, I was all like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
No, it's because we also used to have like salsa verde, salsa roja.
Yeah.
I mean, anything.
No, give me another one. I want to know another one. Give me another one.
Here it is. ¿Cómo se dice envelope?
Envelope. Shoot. Sobre.
Eso,
sobre.
Oye, pues entonces hazme otra.
Okay.
A ver qué tal.
No, I want to do... Oh, this one's funny.
Oh.
Pokemon are always referred by parents to specifically which Pokemon?
Pikachu.
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 It was so funny when I came to the United States. Yo decía Pikachu, but everybody's like, it's Pikachu. And I was like, no, it's Pikachu.
O sea, he says it like he says it himself.
Pikachu.
No, thank you so much, Mike, for coming on to Echale Podcast. One last question. Obviously, I love storytelling. That is why I do Echale Podcast, because it's Echale Ganas a la vida, one episode at a time. How would you motivate, or what tip would you tell people who want to go into becoming entrepreneurs?
I think look at the Latino market. The United States is the second largest Spanish-speaking country in the world behind Mexico. So there are a lot of Spanish speakers here in the United States. And they speak English and Spanish. So this bilingual market is huge. Take advantage, create products that really go for this community, because we're the ones that can create the good, authentic products with insights from our community, rather than letting other people, from white-run companies, create products for us that feel like they're not for us. They're just sort of trying to take our money. So I told people, always think about our community when you're creating products. Think about us, because we are a growing demographic. There's more of us. There's going to be way more of us too in the future. So start laying the groundworks now with your Latino consumers, because a lot of companies out there are going to, in a couple, 5-10 years, they're going to be playing catch up. And at that point, I want Sabo kids to be like what people go to when they want to teach their kids Spanish. So I'm laying the groundwork now, because it is a big demographic that's going to keep growing. And gonna keep listening to podcasts like
Yes.
this is a time to get into the business to serve Latinos in our community.
Where can people find Si Sabo Kids and where can people find you?
So you can follow us on Instagram at Si Sabo Kids or at Millennial Loteria. All the links are there to buy from your favorite stores. You can buy the books at Barnes & Nobles, Amazon, or online at Target. And I do have an exclusive for you.
Yes.
We do have an exclusive for you. We have a 3-in-1 game coming exclusively to Walmart for around the holiday time, hopefully around Hispanic Heritage Month.
Amen.
And so we'll be there, and it'll be good for like you to be able to play games with your kid and teach them English and Spanish. Still in the Millennial Loteria vibe, a little bit Si Sabo Kids, but I'm really excited for the support that Walmart like is giving us. They already ordered 60,000 copies. So
Oh my God.
I'm trying to sell them now.
Yes.
Please go
buy them.
Go buy them when they come out.
And you also have a talk show coming up.
Yes, I'm filming my first talk show on Friday, so like tomorrow. Yeah, so I have a bunch of guests coming, and I'm very excited. I'm interviewing Gaby Moreno, who's a Guatemalteca. She just won her first Grammy. No, not her first Grammy, but a Grammy for Best Pop Latin Album.
Yeah.
And so I'm just excited to be able to transition into also like interviewing people, and I'll call you for some advice.
Trust me, like you're really good at talking. And I just want to go ahead and say once again, thank you so much for coming to Echale Podcast. Mike Alfaro, everybody with Si Sabo Kids Millennial Loteria, make sure to order your guys' copy. Don't forget to subscribe, share, follow us on Instagram, Echale Podcast. Follow Mike and go and buy this, please. Gracias. Thank you. What's up, everybody? Just wanted to let you know that this episode is sponsored by our friends at Sabio. And if you don't know what Sabio is, it's a tech school. They offer full-time and part-time classes and are 100% dedicated to helping smart and highly motivated people to learn to code and land an amazing job as a tech professional. Look, when you're done, you can create websites for your tío's business and charge him for it, or your local church and charge them too. Or you can land a job at any company because all companies hire software engineers these days, like your local bank, a social media platform, or a new app. The possibilities are endless. Learn to code and land an amazing job with great benefits. For more information, visit sabio.la. Sabio, code small, dream big.